Did you know that the actual survivors of the accident appeared in several cameo roles in the movie? And that's not all. There are numerous hidden details in the film that reveal fascinating contexts. Today, we're delving into these intriguing aspects of the Society of the Snow. Let's start with the moment in the cafeteria scene at the beginning. There's a solitary figure engrossed in a newspaper. That's Jose Luis Coche Inciart, another survivor of the accident, making a cameo appearance. It's a bittersweet sight because Jose Luis sadly passed away in 2023 after a decade-long battle with cancer. However, before his passing, he had the opportunity to watch the movie, courtesy of director Juan Antonio Bayona, who personally screened it for him well before its official release. The character of Numa Durkati in the Society of the Snow carries a profound symbolism that links his initial introduction to his eventual demise. Allow me to elaborate. It all starts with Durkati's friends attempting to persuade him to embark on a journey to Chile. In a subtle scene within the church, we observe the young men passing a paper among themselves. This paper eventually finds its way into Durkati's hands, bearing a message urging him to join the trip. If we examine Durkati's death, we'll notice a striking reversal of this paper motif. Instead of receiving a note, Durkati tragically leaves behind a message for his friends, expressing that there is no greater love than sacrificing oneself for friends. This poignant note, akin to the one that initiated their journey, passes from Durkati to each of his companions. This symbolism is profound. The adventure commences with a simple note from Durkati's friends persuading him to board the plane, and it concludes with Durkati's message encouraging his friends to forsake the plane and pursue freedom. After the accident, several of the boys began experiencing a rather unusual symptom. Their urine turned black. The movie doesn't delve into the reasons behind this phenomenon, but in reality, there's a scientific explanation. You see, normal urine contains a pigment called urochrome, which gives it that typical yellow hue. The concentration of this pigment varies depending on your level of hydration. If you've ever noticed that your urine is clear when you drink plenty of water and darker yellow when you're dehydrated, you're familiar with this concept. Now, in extreme cases of dehydration, the pigments in the urine can accumulate, resulting in a dark, almost black color. That's exactly what happened to several of the boys in the aftermath of the accident. They were severely dehydrated, causing their urine to turn black. Throughout the movie, we see the boys smoking cigarettes, seemingly without ever running out. But where did they get so many cigarettes? One of the survivors of the real flight was Javier Mito, who happened to work for a tobacco company owned by his family. He had brought along a substantial supply of cigarettes onto the plane, intending to conduct business with them in Chile, where there was a shortage of tobacco at the time. However, the tragic accident disrupted this plan entirely. Despite the setback, those cigarettes proved to be incredibly valuable during their ordeal in the Andes. To ensure they lasted, the survivors devised a rationing system. Each person would receive a box of 20 cigarettes every 2 days. Surprisingly, this strategy worked remarkably well. Despite being stranded for 72 days, the cigarettes never ran out, serving as a small but significant comfort in their circumstances. The actors who starred in the film underwent a very strict diet to shed weight and add more realism to their characters. The technique paid off, but it also led to a hilarious anecdote. Agustin Pardella, who plays Nando, shared a funny story from when they finished shooting in the snow and moved on to the final scenes in the hospital. At this point, the production team finally allowed them to end their diet and eat normally. When the catering was opened, the guys were so famished from the diet that they practically pounced on the food like wild animals.
Abrieron las puertas del catering por primera vez y fuimos todos así vestidos.
Y era como la gloria.
Y los del catering que no nos conocían no podían creer la desesperación con la que estábamos comiendo y nos estaban filmando.
Roberto and Nando, after crossing the mountains, find themselves resting by a river. It's here that Nando is taken aback by the sight of a lizard. This moment symbolizes a significant turning point for him because it signifies the end of their journey through the snow and the return of life. Interestingly, this detail with the lizard actually happened in real life, but it was Roberto Canessa, not Nando, who experienced it. Roberto himself shared this anecdote in an interview, adding another layer of authenticity to the film's portrayal of their incredible survival story.
Cuando vi que se había acabado la nieve, estaba la vida. Había una lagartija parada que parecía que me decía, pero vos no estabas muerto.
At the end of the film, there's a poignant moment where one of the young men is seen holding onto a suitcase. Despite the pilots urging him to discard it due to weight restrictions, he refuses, choosing to stay rather than abandon the suitcase. This young man is Gustavo Cervino, and the significance of the suitcase runs deep. During the actual accident, Cervino took it upon himself to collect belongings from all those who had tragically passed away: medals, chains, watches, documents, anything he could find. His mission was to return these items to the families of the deceased. That's why the suitcase held such immense importance to him, and the tense situation with the helicopter was a reflection of real events. Cervino literally sat on his suitcase and insisted on bringing it on board, threatening to stay behind if necessary. Remarkably, he kept his word. He fulfilled his promise by going from house to house, delivering the mementos to the grieving mothers, brothers, and relatives of each deceased person. In the final scene of the film, as the boys sit together in a hospital room, there's a notable detail: a plate with food scraps lying at the center. This has a very interesting context. Recently, Roy Harley, one of the survivors, shared a hospital anecdote that sheds light on this scene. According to Roy, upon their arrival at the hospital, the boys spotted a nurse who had received a cake as a gift. Their hunger was so intense that they couldn't resist the temptation. They ended up stealing the cake and devouring it together. The sight was wild, with the boys eating the cake with their bare hands. It's believed that the plate with food scraps in the final scene symbolizes this memorable cake incident.
Una pobre enfermera que le habíamos asaltado y le habíamos robado una torta que le habían regalado. Nos lo tiramos encima como animales, como monos, la tacleamos y le robamos la torta. Y terminamos sentados en el piso del hospital comiendo con la mano, que se nos caían los pedazos de torta. Era para filmarlo, eso era.
The film went to great lengths to achieve authenticity in its scenes. The actors actually filmed in the snowy terrain of Sierra Nevada, Spain, to capture the chilling atmosphere around their characters. However, not all scenes were shot in the snow. The filming process was divided into 3 levels to accommodate different requirements. The first level was set at 2,800 meters, where most of the snow scenes were authentically filmed, immersing the actors in the realism of their surroundings. Moving to the second level, there was a set spanning 100 meters by 100 meters, essentially a massive square with an artificial setup that replicated the crash site. This set featured an elevator in the center to adjust the position of the plane as necessary. Finally, the third level consisted of a relatively small set adorned with artificial LED screens, primarily utilized for interior scenes set in enclosed spaces. While less authentic in terms of environment, these screens provided a versatile backdrop for various indoor scenes. The last scene of the film shows the survivors in a hospital room. This image seems to be a reference to The Last Supper, Leonardo da Vinci's painting. If we think about it, both images have a certain connection. The last scene represents, as its name suggests, the last meal that Jesus shared with his apostles, or rather, with his friends. After this, Jesus would be crucified, and each apostle would take his own path. Similarly, the film shows this scene as the last time the boys were together as brothers. From here, they all went their separate ways, and although they reunited many times, they never again were as united as they were in the Andes. Well, that wraps up our 10 hidden facts in the Society of the Snow. I hope you enjoyed our video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for tuning in, and until next video.